my judgment.
Dinesh D'Souza was sentenced on Tuesday to spend 8 months in a confinement center.
It all began when the Obama administration tried to shut me up.
You know, gangs are all about stealing, man.
What did I learn? All crime is about stealing. The big criminals are still at large.
Didn't see any reason to keep them.
The system doesn't go after them because they run the system. It's time to go behind the curtain and discover the soul of the Democratic Party.
Explain what we just saw in that clip.
Well, in that clip you see me in the confinement center. This is a federal confinement center under the supervision of the Bureau of Prisons. And this was for my heinous offense of giving $20,000 of my own money to a college friend of mine who was running for the U.S. Senate in New York. I shouldn't have done it, but I did it without any corrupt motive, just to help a friend. And there's no one in all of American history who has been prosecuted, let alone locked up, for doing what I did. Typically, campaign finance law is to prevent corruption. So you're trying to buy office, you're trying to ultimately get some legislation passed, and so the money changes hands for that purpose. Nothing like that was involved here. So I believe I was selectively prosecuted by Obama in retaliation for making this movie 2016. And the reason I know that Obama was upset by the movie is he began to rage against me on a website, barackobama.com. And so I think I was stupid in committing this technical violation of the law, which gave them a pretext to go after me.
Dennis Michael Lynch is also a conservative documentary filmmaker, the producer of They Come to America, and he spent time with Dinesh as their careers have crossed. Dennis, it's good to see you, and I know you believe that he may be a victim of political targeting here. Why?
Absolutely. Film is the most powerful medium we have. You have a captive audience for 2 hours. So when you make a film that hits the president between the eyes and could shift an election, you become a target because you're not only a talking, but you're a visual, and you put that together. So I know I've lived through this with immigration reform. I mean, I help impact which way that's going to go by showing films that give you what you need to see. You do that, you become dangerous to the other side. When you're dangerous to the other side, you walk around with a target on your back, and that's what you're seeing.
I tried to turn the lemon into lemonade by learning from this experience and then putting it into this film, the new film, and basically using it to widen my horizons and how I understand politics, not merely as a function of ideas, two groups debating each other, but also as a racket, a kind of criminal racket. And of course, being with the hoodlums and sleeping in bunk beds with them, I learned something about gangs, about criminal rackets, about extortion, how you get money out of people. Excellent preparation for studying the Democratic Party.
Let me ask you, if I was going to ask you this later on, but I'll ask you now because you're bringing it up. If, God forbid, she wins, you afraid that you're going to have to, I mean, I'm sure you haven't done anything else of the sorts, but I mean, are you afraid that she'll try to retaliate against you as well?
You know, I have to watch my back, and I realize that I'm kind of on the front line. I think in some ways that's a safe place to be, because think about it, if the narrator, author, and creator of Hillary's America were to disappear, who would be the main suspect?
Well, I don't even mean to that end. I just mean to the end of, like, she will just try to make your life miserable. Yeah,
and I expect, you know, that is fully in character for the Clintons. Because they operate kind of in the Al Capone mode. They would like to be, I think if they had their way, unlike Obama, their goal is to be the mob boss of America. So if you think about Al Capone, what did Al Capone want in Chicago? He wanted the city to run at his behest and command. He wanted to loot the treasury. He wanted to give contracts to his buddies. He wanted his opponents and critics to be moved off stage, snuffed out, pushed away. And he wanted to walk into the Chicago Cubs stadium and have the whole crowd go, "Big Al, Big Al, Big Al." This is basically the cult-like ambition of the Clintons. Now, Bill's ambitions are more circumscribed, because I think if Bill has big meals, everyone thinks he's the greatest, he has women lined up the door, he's happy. With Hillary, it's a more tyrannical impulse. She wants to run everything, she wants to control everything, she'd love to run your life and my life, and so she's a scarier character to my way of thinking than Bill.
So then, I guess the answer is that you expect that she will give you a hard time if she does get elected president?
I think she will try to. Happily, we don't live today in India or Venezuela. My wife's from Venezuela. I think if we live in those countries, they're run by gangs. And I can't make this kind of a movie over there because they'll just send gangs to the house to beat you up and break all your furniture and take your big screen TV. We still live in America. We still have fundamental rights. We still have separation of powers, checks and balances. Hopefully we'll maintain an independent judiciary. So there are protections here that I still count on.
Look, you know, when you take a look at the mainstream media, actually, if you even do the numbers, you take Fox News, you take Newsmax, you put us together, we don't even touch a fraction of what ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, they all reach. So not the numbers of people who have to see a film like yours or have to hear the message that you give on something like this, we need to get it out there more. So what I want you to do is I want you to explain how this movie, if put in front of an independent, how this movie will influence them. Because I think ultimately, one thing I've always done, it's been very helpful with when I was doing my DVD program, is I would give out extras. And I'd say, listen, you got to put this in front of a Democrat so they understand how bad immigration is. When they see it, they'll think differently. How does the person at home right now who's watching this, who's a conservative, what in that film is it that you say, you got to say this to your friends and get them to the theater?
The film is very explosive because it challenges the central core basis of the whole Democratic Party. In this way, it's a much more destructive and it's a much more subversive film than Obama's America, because Obama's America was about one man. And that man was an outsider. And even for 8 years, his relationship with the Democratic Party is somewhat tenuous. Hillary comes right out of the progressive movement and right out of the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party has a moral claim to rule. And that is, we Democrats, they say, have always been the party of the little man, the ordinary guy. We have been the party of women's suffrage and fighting for women's rights. We freed the slaves and fought for civil rights. We're the party of blacks. We fought for immigration. We're the party of Latinos. Now, we in the film expose that all of this is a big, fat lie. The Democrats have been the party that has been the deadly enemy of the ordinary guy. They have been the enslavers and segregators of blacks and lynchers of blacks. They have been the party that has blocked immigration and tormented the Hispanics and the Latinos. They fought women's suffrage tooth and nail for 25 years. They lost in Congress. Then they fought it in the states where they lost again. So this is the actual history of the Democratic Party. Fast forward to this recent email scandal and you see how the Democrats privately talk about blacks. When they talk about Hispanics, it's the Taco Bell gang, because they think of Hispanics as serving you in Taco Bell. They insult blacks, they insult homosexuals, they make fun of Bernie Sanders' religion. So they put up a big front out here, and in Philadelphia, all these squid-like cloud of rhetoric, but the reality of the party is somewhat different. So, if independents, if blacks, if Latinos saw this movie, the effect would be discombobulating, because it would show that all the stuff that they've been spoon-fed by the media and academia is wrong. And so I would love to figure out a way to get this movie in front of them. It's not easy, because like you say, typically you preach to the converted, and it's important to preach to the converted, but if we could get a way to get it to the outsider, that would be fantastic. Has
ABC, NBC, CBS, any of those major networks had you on yet?
No, those guys are covering for Hillary, and they're absolutely, I mean, just think about it. If it turned out that the Republican Party was fixing its primary election, putting its thumb on the scale for one candidate as opposed to another, let alone talking in private about minorities in this demeaning way, this would be on every network. NPR would never stop talking about it. The New York Times would be on the front page every single day. So clearly we have a serious problem in this country in that this so-called independent sector, the media, is actually doing unpaid work for one of the political parties. It's a kind of national scandal, to be honest.
If Michael Moore had a movie coming out called Trump's America, you think they'd be giving him time?
They would be giving him all the time in the world. Now, to raise a more delicate point, the Democratic Party would also line up completely behind him. You would think that with our movie, the RNC, the super PACs, our side would be rallying completely behind me. That's not the case. Now, Trump did tweet out, hey guys, go see D'Souza's Hillary's America. But apart from that, the RNC, we've not heard a word from them. The super PACs, we haven't heard. Now those guys have resources. They could take this movie. They could open up the theaters and get black churches to bring people to the movie. They can bring Latinos to the movie. They don't do this kind of stuff because they're encrusted by consultants who tell them what to do. This movie could help them if only they'd let it.
Why don't you think they are?
I think it's because our party is very messed up. It's messed up at the core. Part of the success of Trump and the Trump phenomenon is a legitimate backlash from rank-and-file Republicans who know that the corruption extends to our team, that our team itself is not fighting in the way it ought to. And even though I've made this movie at the expense of our investors. We've done messaging. It's a unique type of messaging. The RNC can't do this kind of messaging. They don't even know how to. And we're sort of delivering it out there. So it's almost like a weapon. It's available. We're putting it in your hand. All we're asking you to do is use it, and you won't. Or at least you won't to date.
All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking more about Hillary's America. Don't go away.